All right, welcome to the second episode of Manamari. Today we will be discussing the impact social media has had on the Oromo community and how we use it. Today I am joined by Najat Hamza, Kiya Sani, and Jilcha Hamid. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Thanks for
Thank you,
inviting
thank you.
Thank you for having us, Ms. Chaltu.
All right. In 2015, the Oromo protest broke out back home, as did the hashtag Oromo protest. The Oromo identity, a lot of people strengthen for the first time in almost a decade. Let's jump into our questions. So, how do you think the Oromo struggle has changed over the past 2 years, and how social media has helped to push us forward? I'll go ahead and start with Najat.
Well, thanks for having us. I think that Oromo people, we all know, have struggled for the longest time, but sometimes not to our credit, or maybe not to the goals that we want. But what social media did is, for me, connect what is on the base, like on where the kids at home and us here. The information flow was critical. We were able to get things on time right away as they happen, and we were able to expose that to the outside world. This is critical because the regime is very well versed in creating an alternative narrative to what really happens on the ground. And this kind of gave the Oromo kids and the Oromo struggle in general, and specifically the Oromo protests, their own, like a stage to tell their truth. It might not be 100% complete, but it gave their truth an exposure it deserved. And that is what put the regime in a very challenging position, because they're not used to not controlling the narrative of what comes out of that place, whether it is people's dissent, economic reports, call it whatever, even if it is like some Kabale or Warada reports, they always had a way of altering it to fit the narrative they wanted to portray to the world. And so this whole social media penetration, even in Oromia, it surprised and shocked them in that sense. And so there is some gray areas where it cost us some things. Maybe we share information, too soon. Maybe sharing that might have put some kids in danger over there, but they also calculated that risk beforehand. So that's the only, I guess, like an only concern that I had at the time. But in general, if we look at it, it actually benefited us as people, and to tell our stories as we are the narrator of what is going on. And then it put the regime in the counter, like narration, where they're trying to, oh no, that's not what happened, this is what happened, or what have you. And so we are, for the first time, on the driver's seat of our own, like agenda and goal.
All right, Kiya, what are your ideas on how social media has helped to push the struggle forward over the past 2 years?
Well, I'm usually, to begin with, I usually talk about, when I speak more of like what is the social media as like, what impact it has on Oromo. Usually on social media, when I talk about social media, is usually don't do this, and all that kind of things. But let me speak about the good thing about social media, especially for the Oromos at this point. Social media is all like being said that social media is it was very critical for the Arab Spring. That's all the time the example that comes with social media in politics is the Arab Spring. To some extent in 2008 when Obama came to power, it was a big part of it too, but it wasn't that popular back then. But when you see the Oromo case, we were in this international level. We were not anywhere to be found. We were excluded. Social media brought us up to the top. If you look at it, international level, the result that we're seeing today in Congress or Senate floor or anything came as a result of the media and social media, especially social media that we have, because we were able to show what is happening with evidence at the same time as they are happening. That was like, and I'm pretty sure in the future, the social media example, the narrative will change to the, oh, look at the Ethiopia, how it changed the Ethiopian politics. It's going to stop the Arab Spring. Trust me on that, because we were really, really far away from this international stage, when you think about it. At this point, we are running the agenda of the country. We are giving them the agenda. You know, it used to be, they have the media, the regime used to have the media and everything, they controlled everything, so they narrate the way they want to. But that now, that's not the case anymore, because we are running the stories. You know, anything that we say is happening, Kero says happening, this is because of information that we flow within each other. And that's one thing we really have to be thankful. Of course, like Najat said, there are some shady stuff on the other side, because also we are, as a society itself, we are really in the beginning, like we are not exposed to this kind of things before. So everyone is like, we're fresh to it. I mean, some people might be, you know, a little longer than other, but still, we still don't know how to use it in a good way that benefits us all the time. I always say, when I post something, I have to ask myself, what does this benefit to my people? What is the pros and cons of my post all the time? Is it positive? Is it helping the struggle? Those things are going to be examined. But if you see in general about social media, it has helped us to run the politics of the Ethiopian, East Africa in general, I would say.
To build on what Najat and Kiya are saying, social media plays the role of a facilitator. So for activists, for example, when there's a fundraiser that diaspora activists are running, the primary place where people rally together and build awareness about that activity is on social media. Back home, when people are calling for a market boycott or a strike or a protest on a specific day, they communicate through Facebook and social media. And the biggest example or evidence of that is the fact that whenever there's an issue, whenever there's a big protest going on, the first thing that the regime does is they close down Facebook, or they close down people's access to social media. And that's not just the Ethiopian government, that's many governments that do that. The Chinese government, during the Arab Spring, a lot of Arab governments were trying to do that. So that just shows you that the power of this tool. A lot of people get into debates of who is organizing Cairo, and is it this organization or that organization, or is it coming from the diaspora? Or the fact is that people are organizing themselves, and the biggest role is played by social media. That is where people are very easily able to create groups and communicate with each other without government spying on them, government interference, and government being able to shut them down. So social media plays a huge role, whether it be in the diaspora or back home. So that's undeniable. There are negatives with anything. There's positives and negatives. It is sometimes used, to spew propaganda against political rivals and attack people personally. And but even in that, there's good, because if you look at a lot of our, media networks, whether it be back home or in the diaspora, you don't really see a lot of different ideas coming together and people debating with each other and sharing and exchanging information and disagreeing with each other. You don't really see that, but you see that on social media. It happens in a very aggressive and sometimes negative manner, but it happens, and that's also a good thing.
I honestly, just to add to a little to what you guys said, I feel like there's been a huge benefit. The revolution changed its face. For a long time, there was difficulty communicating across Oromia alone, from the north to the south, east, and west. And social media, over especially the past decade, has really made communication a lot easier among our people. We are networking, talking to people, working with people across the world. So it's really brought the diaspora together, as far apart as we all live. And it's brought the people back home together. So I think that's a huge, huge benefit, because communication is key to any success in any revolution. What are some of the challenges you guys think Oromos have on social media with healthy dialogue and debate about ideas that they might agree on, might disagree on? Everybody has different opinions. How do you think those discussions go, Najat?
That's where my heart is heavy because as a former debater, yes, I was a nerd. You know, the whole idea of fostering debate, like Jilcha said, we are a little bit challenged in that department as people. I don't think we understand the concept of liberty. Like liberty is not an enforcing one's worldview or one's, you know, what you like and don't like onto others. Liberty is exercising whatever you deem is important to you, but also disagreeing with civility at the same time, and having that talks that are difficult for anyone to have, but also come out with some sort of an informed, you know, idea about why the other individual is holding the views that they do. With that said, what happens in this environment is that we see a lot of debating the person and not the issues. And so we have a hard time separating the issues that we needed to debate, the difficult conversation we need to have versus the person who are having them. And so that makes it hard in a social environment, social media environment, because it takes the personality out of it. And so it's kind of a dry word back and forth situation that happens. So if we can just maybe move the needle a little bit to the personable side and come in with our own prejudice, you know, it's okay, but then come in with an open idea of, okay, why is this person holding this view? And why is this view different than mine? What has caused that view to happen? And whether it's in our politics, in the struggle, or in the way forward, those conversations are very, very important for us to produce some sort of a unique idea, a unique platform we can all agree on, but not in a sense that it's uniform. And many times I hear this, oh, we need to be united, we need to be one voice. One voice doesn't necessarily mean uniformity. It just means maybe we agree on the goals, but we disagree on the ways we take to those goals. You know what I mean? So, and that is maybe an area we need to work a little harder on, fostering healthy debate with substance, because I say that in a very underlined way, because mostly you hear this superficial, shallow, personal attacks or disagreements, and they don't dig deeper into the issues. And so maybe that did happen in some instances, as Dilsha said, on social media, but it needs to happen a little bit more and spill into the medias that we have, all of it. It doesn't matter which one and who is running it. They need to be able to bring opposing views, people why they hold those opposing views, and how beneficial it is to have that, even not for the struggle alone, but maybe for the nation building that happens afterwards. Because if we cannot have that civil discussion, I don't know if we can produce original ideas and disagree, but work together at the same time.
Yeah, well, let me just start to say this. There is a saying that says, small mind speaks about people and great mind speaks about ideas. So the idea, you know, I'm really, really, really against this. What we see in Oromo is that we want to be, believing in the same political ideology or have one political organization, or, we just want to be in one group. And in reality, that is impossible. We are 40 million people. And, that's more than people of Canada. Just because we are not a nation, that doesn't mean that, if you think in that context. So what we see out there is really breaks my heart. It's really hard. It's not about you people are attacking each other, attacking each other's family. Driving false narrative about individual. At this point, we are not at the level of individual. We have a common enemy. And that's why always it's important to talk about the enemy rather than about each other. And, this has been said a lot, and really that's one thing that we really having hard time with. and we have to overcome this. And I know last time some activists sent me this like code of conduct for social media activities, and it was very, very amazing thing if we follow that. Because at the end of the day, I don't even like when our people, we can disagree, it is not a problem. You know what I mean? We can disagree, but I don't even like when people disagree with English in Amharic. I don't like that, to be honest with you. Our conflict has to be amongst each other, and we only have to know. Did you get what I'm saying? The external force doesn't need to know. Even if I have a problem with chaltu, I don't want to go just write in Amharic about chaltu. Did you get my point? Because it's we are exposing ourselves to danger. And that's one thing that I actually recommended on the code of conduct, that I said, can we really keep this in Afan Oromo only, even if we have to debate or if we have to attack each other? Did you get what I'm saying? So that's really important, because at the end of the day, we are in the same circle, whether we like it or not. We have common enemy. And that's why it is very, very important for us to create a common ground. And on the ideas that we don't agree, we can go on our own ways without attacking each other, without hating each other, only debating on ideas. Because at the end of the day, you know, as a human being, we all have our own problems and all of that. Our issue is not that. Our issue is the government. Our people are dying. So what could be a solution for that? Is it me and Chaltu fighting, or me and Jilcha fighting? No, that's not going to solve the problem. So it is very important that we have to know what we focus on. Usually going about, you know, I've seen about talking about his dad, her mom, his daughter. It's just very unprofessional. And it really broke my heart, because, you know, any of us can be exposed to that kind of things in the future, because somebody can go on social media, talk about your family and all of that. And those things are not really healthy. And we have to work as a young people. We have to change the conversation on that, and just, you know, bring it to, I mean, you know, we cannot agree on anything, of course, but we have to be able to create this common ground so that we can all go forward together with our division, with our different ideas. So I think that's one thing we still have to work, like Najat said. It's very important at this point to kind of overcome that.
All very good points. Like I think you guys have covered pretty much all the major points with that. One of the things that you know I experienced discussing with Oromos is that they're not trying to figure out, like you guys said, they're not trying to figure out what your idea is or your point is. They're trying to figure out which faction you belong to. Are you with the Shanes, or are you with the Oymens, or are you with this, are you with that? They're trying to dig and find out which group you belong to. They don't want to know your idea. So that's one of the biggest difficulties that I've had, even on social media, discussing with Oromos. And that's just one of the things that I don't let it bother me, because I know where our society is and what we need to do to move forward. We need to be patient with that kind of stuff and that kind of behavior. We need to show people that we can have a balanced ideas and be balanced. Like, we can criticize both sides, we can praise both sides when they do something right, you know, and just show people that. A lot of people say, oh, Jilcha is flip-flopping. One time he's supporting this group, one time, no, I'm not. When this group does something right, I tell them you're doing a good job. When that group does something right, I tell them good job. And same, if they're doing something wrong, I tell them you're doing a bad job. You need to fix this. You need to fix this. So a lot of people don't even understand. Like, you can criticize two people, you can praise two people. So that's what we need. That's our role as young, you know, people who understand the concept of having different ideas and being able to still, you know, we're still Oromos at the end of the day. We have the same goals, but we can have different ideas and different approaches and how we deal with that. And it's our responsibility. We start from ourselves to show the society that we can do that.
You guys all made really great points. I think it's tough. Social media is tough, especially in our community. When you do something great, they take your face and they Photoshop it on the body of a lion. When you do something horrible, they'll take that same face and Photoshop it on the body of a donkey. or flip your picture upside down or put a big X on it, and they drag you. It's horrible. Character defamation is so real in our community, and you can do a million great things, but as soon as you challenge popular opinion, you are evil in the eyes of the entire community. And there's an entire militia, there's an army out there waiting to come after you if you attack a single individual, a popular idea, somebody's ideology that is currently the hottest thing on social media, or the new fad in our community. And even most recently, look at the shift that we've taken in how we look at OPDO. 2, 3, 4 years ago, a decade ago, calling somebody OPDO was an insult. Now we are, banding together as a community to figure out how OPDO can help us. As soon as the popular opinion was that OPDO and certain key figures in that party were the next big thing, the 1 or 2 people that kind of stepped out, and I'm like, wait, where are we going with this? Why is this happening? We're immediately attacked. And you're just shutting down healthy discussion. You're shutting down healthy dialogue. And I find that to be something that happens in every different community. It is not only exclusive to our culture. It's not only exclusive to Oromos. It happens in American politics, happens in Europe, it happens everywhere. So I think we just have to get used to it. But I think with the upcoming generation, I think healthy dialogue is going to really push us forward. I think it's going to help us along the road, because we still have a really long road ahead of us. Any other ideas you guys have on social media? Anything
I can say one more thing about your new insightful comment. I am one of those people who are very skeptical of the OPDOs, being praised to join the struggle. What they didn't understand, or what they failed to understand about my critiques and me being a little bit on the side, just watching what was happening, was I had issues with the narrative, 1, and number 2, the elevation of these people who are, very much was part of 27 years of repression. So I think of a TPLF organization as an octopus, and the tentacles of the octopus that's holding down Oromia for the last 27 years is not TPLF, it is the OPDOs. And that is in the lived history of each one of us, in my family, and so I was a spectator. But what ended up happening is that, what do you have against these people? They're trying to join this struggle. They're trying to, pull us a little bit ahead without a lot of blood spill. And why don't you just get behind this idea? And so whenever we jump into something and support something, it needs to have a concrete base. Where is it going to go? What are the concrete things you're going to do? And give me accountability. And then, yes, of course, I will get behind anything that, helps us to get there. But it was flawed from the get-go. So my silly lady mind, I didn't just, I couldn't get there. And of course, I have to embrace those people who are coming at this inflamed, love, or the newfound infatuation of the OPDOs and the leaders. But I made each one of them, I took the time and I tried to, to let them know where I am coming from. If these people followed what they said they were going to do, there's an actual genuine, change of heart. They come out and say, we have left the enemy camp and this is what we're gonna contribute from now on. And they held to that belief. Of course, any Oromo would be like, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. Because as Dilsa said, we are not married to one clique or idea. Things can change in politics. It can transform for the better or for worse. And you'll be able to change with those changes. That's how you bring an overall, transformation of anything really. So it is harmful. We might not understand what the harm has been for the last year, but I kid you not, it has caused a lot of harm in the way we even framed the struggle from the get-go in an international arena, both at home. It created a lot of confusion among, even the Geros. Some of the factors were like, we don't know if should we listen to this, should we give them time? And it gave the regime time, and it did. And look at where we are right now. So to support something, to give space to something that you originally didn't. It's a great thing, but you have to do it with caution. You can't jump in with 2 feet in anything in life, really, let alone politics. So that's where my problem is. And I think it goes back to our discussion earlier. If we allow individuals who have those views come forth and have that discussion, they might have maybe picked a thing or two. They say, okay, maybe let's see. But instead of this clique mentality where chaltu or jilcha or one of us say, let's follow the leader, and everybody just jumps in, it's like almost, what do you call it, robotic. Like, think, just think for a second. What have they done? What they have been doing? How do they change from that? How far away are they, standing at this point? And keep them accountable on a daily basis. So I guess if you put it on young people, we might be able to push it a little bit, but I think it's good to have the culture of erring on the cautious side, to take anybody's side, really. I don't care who or what, even here or back home. And maybe, just maybe, we could, do something.
Well, let me add on what Najat has said. Pretty much, I think for most part, that's a good example that, like, even when I see the younger generation are mostly very critical of what is happening and very asking questions. And older generation, they're, kind of flowing with that's what my observation is. And Chaltu and I was social media was talking, like, we were really attacked on these things because we actually came up with very good question. Very good question, legitimate question. We did not say that, Opidio, our point was like, oh yeah, of course, Opidio can be an effect. We can use them as an instrument, but they cannot be revolutionaries. That was our point. And with that, instead of coming with the legitimate point and arguing and just coming to find a ground, people were not listening and just getting into one room altogether. And I think we're missing out a really good point, because as a society, we have lived, and personally, I've lived under this government for 18 years of my life. 18 years. And I know the bureaucracy and all of that of this government. And that's why I'm questioning, because I know every bit of it. So when, all of a sudden, the second day, Abadullah, who was a killer for 27 years, became Gota the next day. I was so surprised. And, those things very, as a, this is politics, like, this is not an easy thing. This is life. We are paying lives into this thing. Bloods. Imagine those people who are dying has brothers and sisters, plans, and all of that as we do. And as a society, all of a sudden becoming, Opidio's now the revolutionaries. That is very, that shows the maturity of our politics at this particular point. And as a younger generation, we came up with very, very good questions that I've been seeing on social media, but no one was taking them seriously. Rather, we're being attacked. So that was a really, really, really bad thing for our society, because we're missing out. If we took those things into consideration, worked on it, we could have made a really legitimate good point that, I personally didn't reject Opidio fully. I've seen we have to see in their practical work, what have they done? We have to take out. Prisoners, they release some of our prisoners. They give land expropriationally. Those are the things they do. Oromo police stopped killing people. Those are really good things. So that doesn't make them revolutionaries. That makes them an instrument to our struggle. They can help us. So that was our point. But at this point, we are really in a crossroad. We still have to discuss on this. Conversation has to go. Social media is actually helping a lot, because now we're seeing videos just changing the dynamics and all of that. So it's gonna work out, but it's gonna take time also. But what my point is that the younger generation are coming with really good points. I think they have to be looked deeply, rather than ignoring them. And our conversation has to be openly. And I firmly believe that Opidio cannot be revolutionary, and that's my belief. That doesn't. If they're going to be revolutionary, I will give my hand up. That's it. I'm done. So that's the point, that the way we have to go forward, and social media is helping a little bit on that part. So that's what I want to say on the OPDO part.
I just want to give the other side of that argument. I agree with what you guys are saying completely, okay? But we have to look at it from the angle of the way I saw it was Oromos don't really have any other options right now. You know, our political organizations are in shambles. They're either based in the diaspora, trying to talk about struggle from different countries, or they're not doing anything at all. So, I mean, the idea of changing OPDO really comes from a place of desperation and not really having any other options. So we have to look at it from that perspective as well.
All right. And unfortunately, our time is up for today. But I want to end with the status that really is kind of what we all want. It was written by you, Kiya. It says, "It is truly my desire that when our people disagree, they would do it firmly, clearly, and with the understanding of where the other side is coming from." I think social media has opened up the discussion and has the potential to allow us to have some real debate and discussion. And I hope to see it move forward from here. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And that's it for us.